Sweet, we're live. Just gonna add Jake into the live. There we go. Jakey,
Hey dude, how's it going?
very well, man. Very well.
Fantastic.
How are you over there in Vancouver?
Yeah, mate, I'm awesome today. We finally had a day without rain, which is kind of rare this time of year. We're like in our autumn over here.
Yeah.
So whenever that happens, I'm like, right, let's get outside, let's seize this moment. So yeah, I'm
Oh
stoked.
yeah.
How
Over
about
here in
you?
Melbourne, we got
Sunny in Melbourne?
sunny in Melbourne. Going into Melbourne, I think it's gonna be like 25 degrees today. So
Ah, dude, that's fantastic.
can expect a lot of mountain bikers out and about.
Yeah, right on. I can't wait to get back to Melbourne and soak up the sunshine soon. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
And
Yeah,
it's Freedom Day here in Melbourne too.
it's Freedom Day.
Yeah,
Congratulations,
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Yeah, you guys have done it tough for sure. So
yeah.
yeah,
But
stoked you're
we're
out.
here, man. We're here. So cool. Should we get stuck in?
Yeah, fantastic, dude. Let's do it.
Awesome, man. So, Jake, you're obviously very passionate and into the whole mountain biking scene over there in Vancouver, Canada, right?
Yeah, dude, it's
So,
soon like become my life here.
yeah. So, I would love to start off and ask you, like, what made you move from Australia to Canada, and then like, how did you like get into the whole like mindset coaching for mountain bikers? Let's start there.
Yeah, for sure, Matt. It's a bit of a long story, but kind of like long story short. Um, Years ago, kind of picked up mountain biking like as a teenager in Australia. Was always like kind of into it, but it was never a big thing.
Yeah.
But kind of in my 20s, got a better bike, and there was more trails being developed and more people doing it. So I started kind of, getting more and more into it. From there, I kind of thought it'd be cool to go to New Zealand and check out what the mountain biking scene was like over there because they, had these big hills and I'd been there skiing and stuff before.
Yeah.
I was over there working for like a year doing a trades job, which is what I used to do. And it was kind of taking a bit of time off, went down to Queenstown, which is kind of like a mini Whistler for those people over in Canada listening here. But it was down there that I met a whole bunch of people that were kind of working these mountain jobs, going out, guiding people and teaching people out in the mountains as like rock climbing instructors or hiking guides and this kind of stuff. And that's what really kind of sparked my interest. I thought, oh man, maybe I could get paid for this and kind of do what I love and not have to like work a shitty job, save up a bunch of money and then take time off to better do this. Like maybe I can just do this for a job.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what sparked my interest and inspired me to kind of go back to Australia, retrain, get my mountain bike coaching certification, and then move here to Canada. So that was 3 years ago now. And from there, it kind of all just took off. Canada's a mecca for mountain biking.
Yeah.
Everyone here bikes. My friends do, my workmates do, my girlfriend does, her family does. Everyone bikes. Everything else kind of revolves around that.
Yeah.
And that's what I really love about it. It's that whole community. It's not just the mountain biking we do. It's that the mountain biking connects you with all these people that you wouldn't otherwise run into.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what brought me here and what's kept me here for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, COVID's helped with that as well. I'm looking forward to getting back to Australia and doing some more biking back there soon.
Yeah.
But for now, super stoked to be here doing the mountain biking.
Awesome, man. And so is it 3 years that you've been like heavily involved in the mountain biking scene?
Exactly, yeah. So I got here and got a job as a mountain bike coach for a local company here that does mountain bike experiences. And that was like awesome, just so much growth there from like being someone who wasn't a mountain bike guide to being out guiding every day, 2 or 3 times as a full-time guide.
Yeah.
So I stuck at that for like 2.5 years. And that kind of leads into the other part of your question there, kind of while I was out there doing all this skills coaching. I realized like there was this other aspect of mountain biking that I hadn't really gave much thought to before. And that was the whole mental side of things. I ran into so many clients there that were kind of just getting started, or maybe they'd been mountain biking for a while, and they'd have like really good technical and physical skills. They'd be able to do the position of balance, they'd be able to do the break in. But there was something else in the way. And that was kind of that mental factor. People run into these all sorts of different mental blocks around different features, maybe past experiences, or even just that idea of what they think might happen when they go to do a particular thing on a bike. So that really inspired me to kind of go deeper into the whole, mindset study and hire a mindset coach of my own so that I can learn some tools and tactics to help these people.
Yeah.
And that in turn kind of uncovered a whole lot of weak spots in my own writing and in my own practice. that I've been working on myself since.
Yeah.
So that's kind of led me to the path where I am now.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I remember being at like the local skate park, like on my BMX bike, and I remember trying to like face these jumps, and it was just, you know, how, like your cortisol level just like spike, and then you just have all this like fear that like takes over your body, and you're just like paralyzed. And I'm sure you like deal with a lot of that, like yourself, but also with like people that you coach. And like for me, unfortunately, I didn't have a long and fruitful biking career. Like, obviously let fear sort of dictate where that went. But I would love
Okay.
to know, like, what was the moments that, if there was one moment or like a few moments that sort of led you to be like, okay, mindset is actually the common factor here, and I want to like go all in and help others. Because obviously
Yeah,
you would have had
dude.
your own experiences, right?
Absolutely. And, you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about like cortisol and that anxiety response. It's often referred to as like a fight flight response. And that's our
Yeah,
body like just trying to protect us from something. It's like, hey, this thing could hurt us. This quarter pipe could hurt us. Maybe
yeah,
it's hurt us before. And it's like, hey, let's stay away from that. But if we're able to get away from that anxiety response into more of like a relaxed, focused state, we're able to think more objectively and be like, no, I do actually have the skills to ride this quarter pipe. It's not actually going to hurt me in this instance.
yeah,
So we're able to do that thing that we want to do. And, I experienced that both, myself working through some of the fears I had. Some of those involved kind of like coaching people that were better than me. I'm not the world's best mountain biker, and I definitely wasn't when I first got to Canada. So I was coaching a lot of people that I perceived to be better than me, whether they were or they weren't. But that kind of elicited the same kind of, fight flight response in me. And I'd find my body kind of locking up, and then I'd be giving bad demos, and then it would just spiral more and more downhill from that. So what kind of I found really cool was, as I was kind of, working with this coach to work through some of that fear and those poor self-beliefs, was that instantly all of that stuff kind of floated away, and I was like, no, I can do this, and I can do it, and it was getting better and better. So I seen that both in myself, and then I was able to teach those same techniques to riders out there that were maybe, scared of things they were riding on the trail.
yeah,
And I just find that so powerful, that tiny little things we can change in our mindset can then affect whether or not our body can do the skills that we've trained them to do or not.
oh yeah,
So yeah, so many instances like that out on the trails have led me to being like, yeah, this is the one thing that can help everything else.
yeah. So that's a very good answer in terms of like why mindset, like why it's so important to the everyday like mountain biker, or just in life in general. Like mindset always sort of, we come to a point and we realize it's the central point that sort of dictates, our emotions, our beliefs, and then influences the actions that we can take out on the field or out in the forest if you're on like a trail or something like that. How does mindset coaching like work for mountain bikers? Like, I know that could lead to like a rabbit hole, but how would that work essentially if you could like boil it down?
Yeah, man, absolutely. It can go like in numerous different ways. And just like kind of add into that last topic there, not to downplay any of the other performance factors like physical skills, like our equipment, or like our physical fitness. Mindset is just another performance factor that goes in there with those skills.
Yeah,
So they're still important. But that kind of leads into your question there of like, how does mindset coaching work? I like to do this style of coaching, a little bit differently than say like traditional mountain bike coaching, where we're out there teaching break-in and we're, both there on our bikes on the trail, looking at the bit of trail we're hoping to conquer.
yeah,
What I find really helpful with mindset coaching is actually being away from the bit of trail or terrain that we're trying to conquer. If we think about it, like say if we're really scared of snakes, and we're
okay,
like, right, man, I'm trying to coach you through your fear of snakes. Let's go and stand next to this snake. I'll let you hold this snake, and I'm going to get you to visualize not being scared of it. You're going to be like, no way, man. All I can think of doing is like throwing the snake out the window and running, right? So it's the same thing on a mountain bike. If you're there at the quarter pipe, or at the drop you're trying to conquer, and we're like trying to get you through a fear of, landing on your head down there and hitting that tree, it's not going to work.
yeah,
So it first involves, taking yourself away from that trail. We first work on like really decluttering your mind, getting rid of a lot of these false perceptions, false beliefs, and anything that might be getting in the way. And then really working out, what is going on in your inner world? What stories are you telling yourself?
mm,
What are you actually capable of? What are your confidence levels like? Things like this. And then we develop a focusing routine. So that's like, what are we actually going to do when we're back out there on the trail? And we do start feeling maybe a little bit of fear or anxiety or whatever those unhelpful emotions are. What are we actually going to do then? And what can we focus on instead that's more helpful? And from there, it's like, right, and how can we put this into action? So developing ways and accountability to actually have people go out there on the trails and build it up in a progressive manner. So not just going straight back to this drop they're really scared of. Maybe it's practicing and putting these new mindset techniques into place on terrain that they're already really comfortable on, so that when they get to that scary terrain, they're like, right, I know what I'm feeling now. I'm aware of this, and I know exactly what I need to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a really broad overview without going like really deep down a rabbit hole and spending 2 hours listening to me, man.
That was super clear, because I know back when I was at the skate parks, you know, it would sort of be like, just ignore your emotions and fears and just send it, just like go for it, and don't even like take on board how you're feeling about it. But then that obviously led to me like face planting on like a jump and stuff. So,
yeah, man, and that's a really common like perception in a lot of sports, and especially like in mountain sports. We've got this whole like macho bro culture of like, just send it, don't worry about it. You know, buddy did it, so you can do it. And that's kind of leads to like one of these like good or it's not situations. Like, it's going to go good until it's not, basically, in your face plant. So, you know, we can bottle away our emotions, we can put them in a black box for so long, but eventually they're going to seep out and come into other areas of our riding. And that's where like a lot of us riders like find ourselves, you know, shredding until one day we've got this mental block that just builds up bigger and bigger, and we don't really know what to do about it. Can lead to kind of like avoidance, just walking around a feature or being like, that's a bad feature, I hate drops, any of this kind of stuff. But ultimately, it's going to take away from why we're actually mountain biking in the first place, and that's to have fun. So that's why like, I'm a true believer that we need to work through these things.
Yeah, 100%. On that note, what would be the cost of not being aware and like allowing and owning those fears and emotions? Like, what's the cost of that? Because I know, like, I'm not a mountain bike myself, but those bikes are like pretty heavy and durable bikes, right? Like, what would be the cost of like not doing the mindset, doing the inner work? Like, what is the cost of that?
Yeah, potentially. I think I'm getting at what you're meaning there. So we, you know, obviously invest a whole lot in these fancy mountain bikes, like you two can see sitting behind me here in my office. We invest a whole lot of money and a whole lot of time in like maintaining them and paying for them. I believe that we should do the same with every other performance factor of our mountain biking. So that involves, you know, the technical skills, the physical fitness, and also the mindset side of things too. So those mental and emotional skills. At the end of the day, if we can't master our mental and emotional skills, we're not going to get the enjoyment out of that fancy bike that's sitting behind me. Okay, so in order to get that $10,000 worth of enjoyment out of that, we probably need to invest a couple $100 or a couple of $1,000 into some actual, you know, coaching as well, so that we make sure that that's on point. Without one, we can't have the other.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
That definitely answers my question. That brings me to a point where I saw your post where it was like a illustration of a wheel, and you could have like the performance down pat, you could have your physical component down pat. But if you don't have like the mental and emotional, like half your wheel is sort of like caved in and you won't be able to ride smoothly.
Absolutely, dude. So much like if we break a spoke on our bike, it's probably going to keep riding for a couple of rides. Maybe one or two more will break. It will still be okay to be a little bit buckled. But eventually, if we let too many spokes snap, that wheel's done, and we're probably going to fall off if we try and ride it. So it's much the same, you know, with our mental and emotional skills. You know, we can ignore it for a little while. We can ignore it for, you know, a couple of rides. But if we get to a point where we've maybe had a bad experience and we just try and bottle it away, it's going to get worse and worse until all those spokes break. And we're like, we can't ride anymore, or we can't enjoy riding anymore without actually dealing with it. So the sooner we fix those spokes, the smoother the whole process is going to be, and the more progression and fun we'll be able to have.
Love it. Love me a metaphor, mate. Love me a metaphor.
Yeah.
So on that note, I want to go through a few more questions, and then I want to ask you a few questions that people on IG have sent through.
Yeah, dude, there were some really good ones there.
Yeah. Anyone watching as well, if you want to leave a question for Jake, feel free. With mindset coaching for mountain bikers, what's the difference of me investing in a coach versus going to like a traditional skills clinic or workshop? like a 1 day, 2 day thing versus working long term? Maybe it's like a month or 3 months with a coach one on one. Like what's the difference with that?
Yeah, dude. So basically the difference is you're working in two different performance factors, both super important, but it all depends, where the weak spots are in that particular rider. So maybe sometimes people are first starting out, they've got like no mental issues. They're like, great, I just want to get into this head first, and learn how to do it, but I've got no idea how to use my brakes. Great, go and see like an on-trail skills coach, learn how to use your brakes. Maybe further down the track, however, though, they've had a couple of scary moments where they've maybe slipped out on some green woodwork or some rocks or something like that. And they're like, man, I don't think I can ride rocks anymore. It just really freaks me out. I just don't know what to do. I just lock up. That's when they need to come and see like a mental skills coach, and work on some, training some techniques there to help them when they do experience that fear and these responses that they're like, I don't really know what that is. That's when it's time to work on that performance factor. So it all depends on, where you are at in your journey.
Yeah.
But not to downplay any of the other performance factors, as well as the bike as well. It's super important to have them all in check so that we can have a good time.
Awesome. What are the common objections you would usually deal with people who are sort of like in the middle or on the fence of investing in a mountain bike coach? Because there's obviously like time involved. There's like a location thing, because obviously going into summer there'll be a lot of mountain bikers here. How would you be able to coach them through it, like being in Vancouver versus them, or myself being in Melbourne?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So this whole industry, like mindset, is like, relatively unknown, especially when it comes to mountain sports like mountain biking. We talked about
So
the whole kind
new,
of
man.
like,
So new.
macho culture and just send it, bro, kind of thing that we hear all the time,
Yeah.
at mountain bike trails or at skate parks and things like that. So a lot of people are just like not open to this to start with.
Yeah.
So that is like a common thing that we face and we have to work through, with the clients that I coach.
Yeah.
But the really cool thing, to answer the second part of your question, is with mindset coaching, I mentioned before that we do it off trail, away from the thing that's scaring us. So that means we can do it in a situation like this,
Yeah.
where we're both sitting in a really comfortable environment. I'm in my office. You could be sitting on your couch in your lounge room kind of thing, going inward and practicing a whole bunch of techniques like visualization, like affirmations, like understanding your inner world. And then I can give you the on-trail homework that you can take to your local trails on the weekend, and put into practice. From there, I'm able to give you some feedback, on where you're at and how that's going. And we're
Yeah.
able to go on and on and on like that. So you also mentioned time. Like that's also a big one as well. For anyone that's done any inner work before, whether it's on bike or off bike, they'll know that this isn't just like a half-hour skills clinic and then you're over, you're good. This is like a long process. In order to get real results, we need to put some real time and some real effort into this. So I often prefer to work with clients over like a month or even over 2 months,
Yeah.
to make sure that I can give them information and then have them use it and then come back to me for feedback, without them kind of just giving them like a skills video and then sending them away and they never hear from me again. So
Yeah.
it's more of
And
a long-term process.
Yeah. Because you could do that on YouTube. Like there's tons of videos, but having that one-on-one guidance and having someone there to be able to give you the real-time feedback and allow you to then like implement as you go. Like
Yeah, you
that.
nailed it, dude. And all of these journeys are really personal. So
Yeah.
you just said there, having a coach in your corner,
Yeah.
who's given you skills specific to you and techniques specific to you,
Yeah.
and then giving you kind of tailored and personalized on-trail homework and feedback is the most important thing. We all know it. We can go and watch skills videos until the end of the world. We can get caught up in that YouTube rabbit hole. We might learn some cool stuff, but whether or not we can actually go and implement it and go and do it when we get on our bike, is a whole nother story.
Yeah. And I love how you mentioned visualization, because like I've been getting real big into that. And the interesting thing that I discovered with that is our subconscious and our unconscious mind can't tell the difference between 3D space and imagined space, like 3D
Exactly.
reality
Yeah.
and imagined reality. So that sort of like goes back to my question of like, how can it work so well, like being in different countries? But that's exactly it. You remove them from the environment, allow their like bodily response to get to a calm level, get them to visualize, and then sort of guide them through that when they're in there in person. So that was
Absolutely, dude. You've got it. So that whole visualization process and the fact that our mind can't tell the difference between real events and events we've just imagined is both
Yeah.
a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
On the bad end of the scale, a lot of clients before they come to me will have the bad side of it where they've imagined all this stuff happening to them on the trail. They're like, I want to go down this roll down, but my tire's just going to get caught on that route there, and then I'm going to break my arm, and then I can't work for 6 months, and then I can't feed my family, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Their mind thinks that's real. So it's giving them that real fear and that real anxiety response, and they're feeling that. Like, that shit's real. What can I do about that? So as you noted there, by taking them away from that trigger, be it that tricky bit of trail or whatever it is, we can visualize a successful moment on the trail in like some really vivid detail. And then our brain's going to remember that. It's like, I did that in my mind. I've done this before. So technically, our mind thinks we've already rode that bit of trail. So when we get back to the bit of trail, we're like, we're just going to do it again. And if you're a mountain biker or a BMXer or anything, you'll know it's always easier the second time. I often say, like, you only ride a trail blind once. Let's do it in your mind the first time so that you don't ever have to ride a trail blind on the bike the first time.
Oh yeah, that's killer, man. I love that answer. Love it. Okay, so just some personal questions for you now. What would you say is your like favorite aspect with like mountain biking itself, or like just because I would think like being out in nature and just in a forest, and like it would be so like zen and quiet and peaceful, but then internally it's like chaotic, right? So how do you balance that, and also what's your favorite aspect with when it comes to mountain biking?
Absolutely do. So like, loaded question there. I'm going to answer it in two parts.
Yeah, that was a good one.
First part now, like definitely like being out in nature and kind of getting some of those zen moments when we do get them is a like fantastic part of mountain biking. But like you mentioned, often we can get caught up in our head and we're just thinking about maybe like all the bad things, like how we're scared, or how we're like getting dragged down trails that we think are too hard for us, or maybe how the climb's hard. We can often like get caught up in some of the negatives of mountain biking. So I like to manage that by focus. Everything centers around focus and awareness. So just like thinking about, what am I actually experiencing right now? Like, what am I feeling and why am I feeling that? And then trying to diffuse some of the maybe negative sides so that I can focus on the great sides, like being out there in nature and getting, a release, getting some adrenaline, having good times with my friends.
Yeah.
But probably my favorite thing about mountain biking is that there's endless progression. No matter where we are in our mountain biking career or our mountain biking journey, is that there's always progression there to be had. We've just got to find it. Okay, so whether that means like you're getting on a mountain bike for your first time, I'm teaching you, the correct body position to ride on just a nice wide gravel trail, or you've been mountain biking for like 10 years, you've been hitting huge jumps, you're like, I think I'm pretty stagnant. And then all of a sudden we look at riding in a new style or in a new place, or even going deeper into your mindset and finding some limiting beliefs there that you can work through. There's always progression, and that means that it's always going to be interesting. It's always going to be fun. So that's my favorite thing about mountain biking.
Yeah. No two trails are the same.
Exactly. And even no one trail is the same. I rode trails here for 3 years now, and I'll still find different lines and different ways of hitting them, different ways of looking at them every time I ride them. So having awareness and having that like intent focus is key.
Yeah. Okay, a question just pops up in my head because I've been making a lot of observations of different types of sports, and I see with surfing, like they're out there getting like crashed, and like they could potentially die. Like the dangers of being in an environment that is not native to us, like we're like on the ground creatures. But like being in the ocean and you're getting like bashed and crashed by waves, and then you come back to shore and then your body's sort of like, okay, you're good. But then out there, your emotional response and mental response would just be going like crazy. And I'd feel like you could draw similarities, like being out there on the trails, like having these high drops. Like, do you come out of the forest and out of trails and just feel like depleted, like you could just crash? Like, is it similar with that?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I can totally relate because I used to try and surf when I was living down in Australia. I was never a good surfer, but I was out there like getting crushed all the time. So I can certainly relate there. And being on a mountain bike isn't natural either. when we're on a mountain bike, our mind, which is like millions of years old, is like, what the hell are we doing right now? We're
Not
trying to go down there. You
not
want me to
natural
jump
to
off
us.
that? It's not natural. So that's why we run into so much, so much of this fear response or this freeze response when we're on the mountain bike. And we do have to take the time to work through this stuff, because putting ourselves in that situation isn't really what our old like ape brain was designed to do.
Mm.
But for sure, sometimes I find rides, especially if I'm riding like right on my edge and I'm challenging myself, or I'm even like pushing myself a little bit beyond what I'm capable of. So riding really technical trails with riders that are maybe, better than me. Sometimes I'll end a ride and I'm like, oh man, I'm both like physically and mentally exhausted from that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it hits you kind of mid-ride as well. So I like to be like really aware of that when I am like, hey, I'm exhausted here. I should probably take it easy for the rest of this lap and maybe stop like hucking off things that really scare me.
Yeah.
Because that's when we can run into problems, when we keep like pushing ourselves and not listening to those markers. It's like, hey, our body's tired here. We should probably catch a wave and go in, rather than like staying out there for the next like set of waves, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I've never gotten to experience overcoming massive drops or like insane trails, but I could imagine the feeling or reward or the satisfaction of overcoming a trail that you would have had doubt and fear of previously. Like, what is that? What is the feeling that comes with like overcoming those obstacles?
Man, it's insane. And like what you're saying there, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a big drop or a big jump or anything like that. For some people, it's like riding a wooden bridge for the first time, or riding like a really tight trail with some switchbacks. Doesn't matter what it is, but overcoming anything that's kind of been holding us back or that we've had blocks of. That's like the best feeling in the world. It's like this pure like excitement, energy, adrenaline, everything mixed in there. We're just like, let's do that again and again and again.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's why we mountain bike. And even if we haven't had a mental block, sometimes it's as simple as just trying a new thing that we thought we couldn't do. You just get this crazy rush. And that's why like you often hear mountain biking being referred to as like addictive. We just want more and more and more. Like that's why we get like this crazy rush of like positive emotions when we do something that we've been previously scared of or we previously hadn't done before.
Yeah. And I'm sure the more like stuff ups and the more you like fall down, the more fulfilling the actual outcome, like when you do overcome the challenges, like how much more rewarding that would be.
Yeah, man, exactly. So like the stronger the barrier, the stronger, good response we're going to get afterwards after we overcome that barrier. But we're also going to have to do a shitload more work to get through that barrier if we've let it kind of build up to a stage where it's like this really serious mental block and we don't even want to face it in the first place. So I'm a big believer of like being aware of any lumps and bumps in the trail as they come up, and then thinking about, right, how can I conquer this now? How can I, make sure this doesn't become a problem later on?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going straight into the questions that people sent through on IG. I put up a poll the other day, and you probably would have addressed these already, but Mike from Southern Cali wants to know, does one need a mindset coach for mountain biking?
Yeah, man, really good question. And I know there's some awesome riding down in Southern Cali as well. It's kind of where it all started. But it kind of depends on where you're at in your journey, like we talked about earlier. Some people might pick up a bike and they've got some really good balance skills already. They've kind of figured out how to brake. They're just going for it. So maybe they're like, hey, I've got really no barriers here. I don't need a mindset coach yet. However, if they want to keep those good feelings and those good times rolling for say like the next 5-10 years of their mountain biking, and they want to keep progressing to maybe some harder trails, they want to ride a little bit faster, chances are they're probably going to run into something eventually that kind of scares them or sets them back. And that's when hiring a mindset coach can really help kind of propel them and even like work around that barrier, make sure there's not a barrier there in the first place.
See, I love that, because you're not necessarily saying like you need a mindset coach because I'm a mindset coach. You're going back to like it all varies to where everyone's at on their unique journey, because everyone's on a different journey, not in just like mountain biking, but in life. So I really like that.
Exactly, man. So it's kind of like in life itself, say if you're like a driving school instructor, you're not going to go and try and sell like driving lessons to like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
So he doesn't even need to drive yet. He's going to learn to ride a bike and whatever, walk around first. But when he gets to driving age, absolutely, he's going to need a driving instructor to make sure he can drive safely. So it's the same with, being a mountain biker, and do you need a mindset coach or do you not? That's like have you got to a level where you're looking to push yourself, or have you run into barriers where you need a mindset coach?
Yeah. Awesome. Beautiful answer. All right. I've got a question from Ryan from Singapore. That's actually my cousin.
All right.
How do I prepare and steel myself for my first stunt? I.e., writing down steps, jumps, etc.
Awesome question. Yeah. And I'm sure that's like on the tip of the tongue for every mountain biker that's like just picked up a bike and just getting into it on some kind of flat ground, but they're like, that's the goal. I want to ride down some stunts one day.
Yeah.
I'd say by taking like incremental steps. So say if we're like, we want to ride down some steps or a staircase or something, like that's our end goal. It's like, what are some steps we can take first to prepare us for that end goal? So it might be like riding down a curb first and really dialing our position and our balance, thinking about the run in and the run out, and really thinking about what we're doing there. Then maybe there's like a steeper hill that's just down the road that we can go and practice on next. And then maybe we're back at the staircase, we're visualizing how we're going to do it. We're talking it through. I find talking things out loud to a buddy or even just to ourselves can be a really good way of understanding like whether we actually have the skills and whether we actually know what we're doing in the physical realm before just like hucking off it and hoping for the best. So you could be there like, right, I'm going to get a little bit of momentum here. I'm going to get lower as I approach the staircase. I'm going to be looking ahead. And then I'm going to brake on the run out so that I don't fly out onto the road.
Awesome.
And if he finds himself getting scared in that moment, that's when he's like, hey, I'm going to do some breathing exercises. I'm going to do the stuff I worked on with Jake beforehand, and then implement those practical skills.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, Ryan, maybe you need to send a DM to Jake, ask some questions.
Yeah, man, for sure. And that definitely goes for anyone kind of watching along here or anyone that asks questions. You can probably tell I absolutely love talking about this stuff, whether it's mountain biking, whether it's mindset or anything else related. Send me a question. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you and talk about that.
Awesome. Okay, this one is from my mate Luke, and I also am very interested in the answer to this because when it comes to mountain biking, I'm pretty amateur. How do I get started in mountain biking with little to no experience?
Yeah, man, I love this question because, you know, this can be kind of daunting for anyone starting anything new that like, oh, I want to do that thing, but like, how do I meet the people and how do I know what bike to buy and all of this stuff? My number one bit of advice there would be to join like a local mountain bike club if you have one at a local hill near you, or to join like a Facebook community. I know, you know, there's Facebook communities for mountain biking all around the world now, whether they're kind of just like on there for like posting pictures of bikes or whether they're on there for like specific trail advice or questions. One of the things that I found most helpful when I came to Vancouver was joining a group called Vancouver Trail Shredders. On there, I was able to post my first weekend here in Vancouver, like, hey, I'm new, anyone want to go ride in? And I was out there like 2 days after landing on a plane here, riding with some locals, getting to know the local trails. And from there, you're like, okay, so this is a local bike shop, this is a local mountain biking club. You can really get connected and learn everything you need to know. One thing you'll find, like once he does get going, is that mountain bikers, although they might be stinky and maybe unfriendly looking in the mountain biking car parks, they're always super friendly, always happy to talk about bikes and help you out. So yeah, join some of the local communities, get connected, and get out there.
Cool. After this, I'm gonna look up Melbourne Trail Shredders.
Yeah, there might be one, dude. I know there's some good local hills around Melbourne. There's kind of like Mount Buller, the You Yangs, Listerfield, a whole bunch of great kind of trail networks there. So there's definitely going to be a mountain biking club you can join.
Sweet. This question is, how do we overcome the fear of jumps? I believe we addressed that, or do you want, like, feel free to touch on that?
Somewhat, man, but it's basically the same way we'd overcome the fear of anything else on the bike or off the bike. So first, we need to work our way up to it and make sure we've got a bike that's capable of going off jumps, make sure we've got the physical capability to actually pedal into the jump, make sure we've got the technical know-how to know what to do when we're on the jump, and then to make sure we've got the mental standpoint or the right place to make sure our brain is capable of making our body do all of those things. So whether that means, you know, doing really small jumps first and slowly working it up, or getting to a jump that you've got this insane fear of and, you know, going deeper into your inner world, getting rid of any unhelpful beliefs, and building up some, you know, really stringent refocusing routines to get yourself into a good place to go off that first jump.
Yeah. Great answer again. What think I asked this already, but what was the moment that led you to decide to become a mindset coach for other mountain bikers?
Yeah, dude. So like we kind of spoke about earlier, I got to Canada and I was out there, teaching all the physical and technical skills, so things like position and balance, braking, these kinds of things, working with loads of cool riders from here and from all around the world at that stage. This was pre-COVID. What I kind of noticed was a lot of the time, although people would have these skills dialed and they'd be able to do them on really easy terrain, as soon as we got to terrain that scared them a little bit or they felt a little bit uneasy, they'd just block, they'd freeze. And I was there as their coach, and I was like, man, I have no idea what to do. I don't know how to get this guy or girl to their goal anymore because I've already taught them the technical skills.
Yeah.
But there's something else happening there. I realized, that was mental and emotional stuff that was happening in the background. So I was like, man, this is my goal. This is my mission now, to work out how to get these people through these barriers.
Yeah. Cool. That's pretty much all the questions from people on IG. To wrap up,
Yeah, dude. Awesome questions.
I would like to know a bit more about the jargon, slang, or like vocabulary that's used in the mountain biking world, because I've seen it pop up so many times, like on your stories and stuff. What is a skinny?
Oh man, yeah, this is actually really funny because I mentioned, I learnt to mountain bike in Australia, down in country Victoria, before I went to New Zealand and went to Canada and got more seriously into it. But a skinny is basically a really thin bit of woodwork, or sometimes they're even made out of other stuff, but it's usually a bit of wood. It started off back in the day with free riders like riding fallen logs. We've got like really straight cedar trees here in Canada, so they're riding along small, fallen logs that are quite skinny or quite thin. And obviously you've got to have like an A1 mental game and some really good technical skills to be able to balance and ride all the way across a log before you fall off it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, like down in country Victoria growing up, we'd always call any kind of woodwork, we'd always call it a North Shore. That's just what I known it as. We're like, yeah, we're going to go ride this North Shore. It wasn't until I got here to the North Shore of Vancouver that I realized that this place is known for skinnies. That's why it's spread to the rest of the world, and it's called a North Shore. So really cool. Yeah, so for the people, watching down there in Australia, whenever I talk about skinnies, I'm talking about North Shores.
Okay. That's got the origin story of what is a skinny.
Yeah, man. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
a skinny is just like a really thin bit of woodwork that we ride along for fun because it's challenging and kind of cool.
Yeah. On that note, what's your favorite jump or trail or like variation of a skinny? Like, what's your favorite sort of like obstacle or?
Yeah, man, for sure. For me, I love variety. Like there's a lot of riders who are like, I'm a tech rider, I'm a jumps rider. But I mentioned earlier, like my favorite part about this is progression. So I love to like ride a bit of everything in order to, have constant progression in my riding. So my favorite trail is one that starts off with, a nice climb, a nice warm up, chance to have a chat, kind of enjoy the nature. And then like dropping in from there into like a nice techie trail, something really challenging. Usually something that's got a few things I need to stop and have a look at and kind of suss out how I'm going to ride it. And then I always like to finish on a bit of flow. So that's where the trail kind of opens up with maybe got some nice, smooth bermed corners, maybe some jumps and things like this. And then usually winding our way down to one of the local breweries or something like that for a bit of a wrap up there as well. So that's my favorite kind of thing to ride, is a bit of everything all in one lap.
Awesome. What is it? Okay, so you asked the question, which types of features would people like to see tools and tactics for most? And someone said rock rolls that have a very steep angle, drops, janky shit. What does that mean?
Yeah, so lots of pure Canadian jargon there. That's awesome. Yeah, so what she's asking about there, we'll start with the first one, is like a rock roll. Lots of rocks in the forest here, and especially in some places in Australia too. I know like the Yangs mountain bike park near Melbourne, there has lots of rock rolls. What she's referring to there is basically a rock that starts off flat, gets very steep for a short moment in time, and then is flat again. So it's basically like a right angle if it's really steep. Sometimes like a 45 if it's not so steep. But basically, it's like riding your bike down a cliff without letting the wheels go off the ground. So our mind can be like, what the hell, what are we trying to do here? But we're really lucky these days. We've got some really capable mountain bikes, and also, there's some really good skills there that we can learn in order to ride this stuff safely and ensure that we stay centered and stay in control while we get down these things. So she's looking to work through some of the barriers she has in her mind to get down, rock rolls. And then second part of that question there, the word janky is a word that's kind of used to describe any section of trail that's really rough or really chunky. Maybe there's rocks and roots. It's really technical. We call that jank. There's just kind of shit everywhere. Lots of stuff to navigate. Maybe we're popping over some of it. Maybe we're going around other bits of it. But yeah, that's kind of the best way I can describe janky. And if you have a look at my Instagram, man, you'll see lots of photos of like janky trails.
Wait. The only previous time I heard the word janky was in like a Drake song. He's obviously from Canada.
Oh yeah?
But now it all
Yeah, man. But he's a rapper. I don't know what it means in the rap world of things, but it'd be cool to find out.
Yeah. Maybe drew inspiration from the mountain biking world. Who knows? That'd be pretty
cool. Maybe Drake bikes.
What is a climb?
Yeah, so a climb is like going uphill.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. I guess we call it a climb here in Canada. One thing that kind of struck me when I got to Canada was the climbs here are huge. Being from down in Australia, a lot of our climbs down there are kind of like 10, 15 minutes, and then we go down for a little bit, then we go up it again. Kind of going up and down all day, unless you're kind of in the Victorian Alps or something like that. But here in Canada, quite often we'll climb for like an hour and a half before we even go down. So like, right, we get our body and our bike and our mind into climbing mode. We're suffering, we're doing this before we get to the top of the mountain, and then we go down for quite a long time as well.
Yeah, cool. To wrap up, what is your most memorable moment being out on a trail in the forest, doing the mountain biking, doing your thing? What's one thing that sticks out for you?
For sure, man. This has been a recurring moment for me since being here in Canada, but quite often like being out there in the forest teaching. I'd be getting people to hike a line like multiple times. So I'm kind of standing there waiting for them to go to the top, and I just like have a look around and just be like, holy shit, this is real. Like mountain biking is not just a hobby for me anymore. It's kind of evolved to be my whole world. This is like where I find my friends. This is where I found like my Canadian family here, and also where I found my work. And my passion as well. So that kind of moment just keeps hitting me over and over again.
Yeah, that's awesome. The convergence of your passions, your community, everything, right?
Yeah, bikes has kind of been a way to tie everything together for me. So that's been super cool.
Beautiful, man. Fights, I've learned so much, Like it's been really awesome to kick it with you. And
yeah, dude, thank you for all the questions. Like it's so cool to talk to someone who's not a mountain biker, but you're doing so well and obviously understanding all of the lingo. And also to your followers, man, it's really good questions there coming out of all those guys from all around the world. So super interesting chatting to you.
Oh yeah. Well, now it's time to jump on a bike, right? On that note, the term all the gear, no idea, what would your suggestion be getting your first mountain bike? Can you get one from Kmart versus the actual
yeah, man.
Or how would you suggest that for like beginners?
Yeah, there's definitely a balance there. It's probably the most common thing we see people investing in mountain biking is all the gear, super expensive bikes, all the fancy, Troy Lee armor and all of that stuff. And there is a line there. The equipment is just a performance factor. So as long as we have a bike that's capable and we have some good protective equipment, we're pretty much good to go. We don't necessarily need a $10,000 bike when we're just starting out.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I wouldn't recommend anyone rides a mountain bike trail on a Kmart bike either. It's probably going to fall apart and cause them more trouble than it's worth. So things have kind of blown up on the secondhand bike market since COVID was a thing and everyone discovered kind of, how much fun it is to get outside and get back to nature. So you can't get a good mountain bike for as cheap as you used to, but still somewhere around like the $3,000-$4,000 mark can get someone a bike that's going to last them for like 4 or 5 years if they want it to, and really take them from being a complete beginner to like an intermediate or advanced rider. Yeah. So that's usually where I recommend people step into it if they can afford that. But by all means, you can still get mountain bikes for cheaper than that. They may just require some maintenance, or they might not be as modern as some of the other bikes we see getting around.
Yeah. I personally know what it's like to invest in lower quality equipment versus high quality. On the weekend, I went camping and I invested in like a cheap swag. It ended up raining on the first night and it was just like soaking wet and just freezing inside. versus my mate Luke,
Yeah.
who invested in like a swag that was double the price, and he was just sweet. He was just like living it up.
Yeah, Luke knows what's up. It's one of those things I've kind of got to learn the hard way. And like you
Yeah,
just said there, it's the same with any other bit of equipment in life. If we're like, right, we're going to do this thing, it pays to invest in it fully and make sure we can get the full enjoyment out of it rather than laying there at night shivering like you did, unfortunately.
yeah, 100%.
But hey, man, you learned the lesson now.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would love to end this by asking you. I'd love to leave like a cookie trail for anyone who jumped in or anyone who wants to like watch the replay. How do they find you? Like what's like I guess do you have a website? Do you have a program right now? What sort of a cookie trail you can leave for viewers?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So those who are kind of watching here, you're about to see my Instagram. It's just Jake Jono, so JakeJohno. That's a really good place to kind of find me and get connected to everything else I have. But my business is called The Mind Mountain. So all of my mental coaching goes via that name. So if people are kind of looking to find me on Facebook as well, I've got a Facebook page there called The Mind Mountain where I also, post a whole bunch of cool content there. And also themindmountain.com is my website where you can find a whole bunch of other blog posts and access to material as well. And also the ability to just reach out to me. Super happy to answer any questions. If anyone is interested in any coaching or finding out about how that works more, feel free just to send me a message. We can talk about all the different options depending on where you're at in your mountain biking journey.
Yeah, cool, man. Jake, man, it's been a pleasure kicking it with you. And the reason I had you on is because I don't know too many people in the mountain biking industry, but just having the chat with you, it's reaffirmed like everything that I've sort of known, or the importance on like mindset added with the physical nature of like mountain biking. But yeah, man, I've learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone who joined in did so too. And like Jake is one of the most like genuine, grounded, like humble dudes. Not only in the mindset industry, but like, yeah, just in general. So big thank you, Jake, for jumping on, man.
Man, honestly, thank you so much. I'm blushing here. But honestly, as I said before, it's been so great to talk to you about this stuff. And I hope I didn't bore you with kind of this, long answers and stuff. As you can see, I'm super passionate about this. I could talk all day about it. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And I hope everyone down in Melbourne and everywhere else that's listening has enjoyed the conversation.
Hell yeah. On that note, cheers, Jake, once again, and thanks to everyone for jumping on. And hopefully we could get on a trail soon down in Melbourne.
Absolutely, man. Enjoy the sunshine for me until I can get down there when the border opens up again soon.
Will do. All right. Much love.
Right on, dude. Peace out. Chat to you again soon.